The new Pokemon Legends game has officially released, and it's about as mediocre as you expect. In fact, I'm being generous by calling this game mediocre. I played Pokemon Legends ZA, so you don't have to, and full disclosure, this was never in the cards. I was fully content on never playing it. However, after some unfortunate circumstances caused me to travel for a few days, I picked up a copy just so I'd have something to do, and a few days worth of entertainment is about all this game has to offer. Before I talk about my experience, I just want to set the stage because this is a historical moment for Pokemon. Nobody was excited for this game, which is a feat of its own because when it comes to Pokemon, scalpers are their best client right now. Yet, not even they were wasting their time or money on Pokemon Legends ZA. In fact, I've always considered the Legends series to be spin-offs in the Pokemon franchise. Just a couple of side games to keep fans entertained before releasing something in the mainline series. However, not only is Legends ZA part of the mainline series, after playing it, it doesn't even deserve to be part of the side series. It sucks. And my first clue that I shouldn't have with it was the fact that before it even released, Nintendo announced a $30 DLC for Legends ZA. That's so scummy. Basically, they can offer more value to this game, but they chose to lock it behind a paywall. And not only that, you can't even access some of the features like the new Mega Stones for the Kalos starters unless you play ranked, which means you need a Nintendo Online subscription. $120 bare minimum you have to spend just to get the full experience. And my second clue that I shouldn't have bought this game was after the fact the Walmart employee said I was only the second person to have bought a copy from their location, which was several hours after they had opened on release day, by the way. I'm going to get my only compliments out of the way before I unload my series of criticisms. I actually really like the new battle format. It's an improvement upon what Legends Arceus established, and by having it no longer be primarily turn-based, it allows for some unique strategies, such as using the environment in battle. I also really like the design of some of the new characters. Visually, I think these are some of the best characters we've seen in any Pokemon game, and their designs help give them a sense of individuality. That said, it also segues into my first criticism, which is that characters in ZA lack any sense of individuality in terms of personality. This has been a major suggestion for a while, but if there ever was a time for Pokemon to add voice acting, this was it. Despite having some of the most unique and visually appealing designs, ZA's dialogue limits any kind of personality amongst characters. Now, maybe it's because I have autism for brains, but having to put together context clues based on a series of speech bubbles and limited facial animations doesn't make it easier to figure out the tone or personality of some of these characters. Are you being sarcastic or are you actually pissed? I can't tell. This is not some obscure title nobody's ever heard of. Pokemon is one of the most profitable franchises on the planet, and you mean to tell me it's too difficult for them to do something like this?
Look, I'm trying to get our hotel guests to safety. Would you please let us through?
But you know, characters aren't everything. Let's take a look at some of the other qualities, like an entire city to explore. It is so insulting how Game Freak toys with its fans. They watered down one of the most iconic parts of Pokemon, which is the exploration. Sure, the vast open worlds of Paldea and Hisui weren't spectacular or anything, but I definitely think it was a step in the right direction. Here, we went from exploring an entire region to a single city, which wouldn't be half as bad if there was actually stuff to do. There was a lot of hope that this game would have catacombs. Brother, you can't even go inside the buildings! You get 2 underground areas that are basically copy and paste. You can traverse a series of hallways, maybe encounter a few Pokemon. Sure, it's great for farming Mega Shards, but it's not like they serve some significant gameplay mechanic. You trade them for a few Mega Stones or some EXP candies. That's it. I'm being generous when I say you can only interact with about 40% of Lumio City. Most of the buildings are cosmetic, and even things outside the mainline quest, like the department stores, are limited to just a menu. They didn't even model the inside. Pokemon X and Y, over a decade ago, had a better city than the game that is only about this city! Now, exploring the city would not be nearly as bad if it was at least fun to traverse. In Scarlet and Violet, you could ride a Pokemon who could run, jump, fly, and climb walls to help you get around. But in Legends ZA, you can't even jump! There is a double jump mechanic that is the worst I've ever seen, where you just fall and have your phone save you, and you can hop up a short distance afterwards. Remember when we had bikes? Remember roller skates? Remember when we could surf on a Mantine and island hop across an entire ocean? If I had to reach for a compliment as to what I liked about Lumio City, I liked how they included anti-homeless benches. Honestly, that's pretty based in terms of comedy. But once again, for a game that's limited to just exploring the city, you would think having something like homeless people would help it feel more alive. There is a character in this game, by the way, who fits the qualifications. So it'd be a nice Easter egg if you could find them sitting on a random bench within the city, and by talking to them, you unlock some lore that Pokemon fans can appreciate. But instead, said character only shows up when the plot calls for it, and they can't be found in the city until after the post-game, which nobody is playing to. Speaking of that, let's talk about the actual story. Sure, the game might suck ass when you try playing it your way, but what if we try playing it the way Nintendo expects us to?
Escape from the battle zone. I'm gonna go this way. Not that way.
The story is about as generic as it gets. There's an urban redevelopment plan taking place in Lumio City, and as soon as you, the player, arrives, you become involved in a series of rogue mega evolutions across the city, which are causing a ton of problems. So by following the story, you discover the cause of this event and find a way to stop it, which involves rising through the ranks of the ZA Royale. And I can't make this next part up. You do so by joining a gang whose leader is in debt to a loan shark. An actual loan shark! So, to help them pay off their debt, you now work for the loan shark as an indentured servitude. So basically, you arrive in Lumio City with the intent of having a vacation, but get gaslit into joining the Mafia. That's so hype. And you want to know what's crazy? They're the good guys! This is a kids game, and Nintendo is teaching kids that creditors are the good guys. So who the f*** is the bad guy? Spoilers, there is no bad guy. A character just made a defense structure back in Gen 6, which was now malfunctioning. Not because of careless construction, not because of malicious tampering, just because it was a thing that needed maintenance. What? You would think the Mega Corporation, the ones responsible for setting up the wild zones in the city, trapping the residents and businesses inside an area with wild Pokemon that could attack them or undergo rogue Mega Evolution at any time, would be considered the bad guys. But nope! There are no villains in this game. The big Mega Corporation is not evil. It just feels like Pokemon took all the complaints people had after playing X and Y and said, "Oh, you thought that was bad? Watch this, we'll make it worse." I played this game for quite a while, and I actually locked in more hours than I did playing Arceus. Not because I was really invested in ZA, but because I wasn't that invested in Legends Arceus. Catching an obscure amount of Pokemon just to progress and complete the Pokédex really made me hate the phrase, "gotta catch them all." But in the case of Legends Arceus, I could still recognize it was an innovation to the Pokemon franchise, and had they continued to build upon it, I probably would have liked that formula exponentially more. But instead, ZA is the most watered down Pokemon game to date. The first thing I tried to do was Shiny Hunt a Pikachu. Not because I like Shiny Pikachu, but because I felt that was the only fair trade for something as flawless as voice. But while doing so, I learned two things. Number one, that trainer got scammed. And two, shiny hunting in Legends ZA sucks. Clusters of Pokemon only spawn in about groups of 3, and it takes several minutes for them to respawn. After roughly 6 hours of trying to find a shiny Pikachu, I eventually called it quits because I wouldn't have been able to continue the story until I finished this required side quest. Aforementioned, I did enjoy the change in the battle mechanics, but there were definitely some drawbacks. For one, despite part of the story is you climbing the ranks in the ZA Royale, you're never presented with a real challenge until you reach rank F, which you instantly jump to after defeating Vinny at rank V. Now you can climb the ranks in their online mode, which I did in order to unlock the Greninjite, and while there is some skill required, it's mostly just knowing what Pokemon and attack to use against the other competitors. So by using moves like Surf or Self-Destruct, which have a high blast radius and can affect multiple targets at once, you can maximize the amount of points you acquire per 3-minute round. In fact, it only took me 2 days to finally unlock the Greninjite at rank K, and the strategy I used was called catching as many alpha Pokemon as I could, find the best ones, evolve them, and pair them with a versatile moveset. That's about all you need to do if you want to start playing online. Pokemon don't have abilities in this game for some reason, so it's really about finding ones with the best nature, which can easily be changed. Now, the reason why it took me a week to give my review was because I wanted to wait and see how well it performed in terms of sales. Unsurprisingly, they were bad. Don't be fooled by these articles claiming Legends ZA leaves their competition in the dust. It's all Jedi mind tricks full of lies and deceit. The reason why ZA leaves their competition in the dust was because they had no one to compete against. It wasn't released alongside anything. These articles just lie about the performance of past Pokemon games. This one right here states, in the first week, Legends ZA sold roughly 1.48 million copies combined for the Switch and Switch 2. It's far from the 2.5 million achieved by Scarlet and Violet's debut, though it is a little higher than the 1.42 million achieved by Legends Arceus. No, it's not! You can fact check this! All you have to do is find the articles that were published when said games debuted. In actuality, Legends ZA sold nowhere close to the 10 million copies Scarlet and Violet sold in just 3 days, and not only that, it performed worse than Legends Arceus, which sold 6.5 million copies in its first week. Now, obviously, I don't think these journalists were hired by the Pokemon Company to falsely advertise the success of the game, but there is no reason for them to try and defend it. Take for example Game Rant, where they state, while professional critics have given an 82% approval rating on OpenCritic, post-launch review bombing of Legends ZA has driven down its user score to 40%, with negative reactions frequently citing a perceived laziness in game design. They didn't review bomb it! These professional critics have probably never even touched the f***ing game they're reviewing! But these random people commenting and leaving a bad review most likely have. And they didn't like it! Which is why they felt the need to share that. Anyways, I'm not going to continue to drone on about this. You get the idea. Pokemon Legends ZA. Not very good. I wasn't totally bored while playing it, but that's not to say I was impressed. It's actually really sad to see the state of Pokemon, where right now, the only good thing left is currently unobtainable by fans because of people like scalpers. For a franchise that's this profitable, it sucks that they continue to underdeliver and not improve upon their games. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this, and that's really about it. So,